am a licensed therapist, certified trauma professional, all that jazz. So today we're just going to talk a little bit about some of the emotions people might be experiencing as we're starting to looking into opening back up, as we start looking into going to in-person events, if we want to go to events. And there may be, just some experiences that we're not expecting to have. So the purpose of this is just to kind of call attention to those things and assure you that this is totally normal. Whatever you're feeling, it's totally normal. Whatever emotions you're feeling, they're totally valid. I tell all of my clients, whatever you're feeling is valid because you're feeling it for a reason. What you do with it, that's the difference. Tell my clients you can be mad the puppy, chewed your shoes, but you don't get to kick the puppy. So at least, yeah, just don't kick the puppy. So we're going to get into this as soon as I can click through. Okay. The first thing that people may be feeling is a little bit of grief. We've lost time. There's been over a year of activities that we haven't been able to do. Some of us have also lost loved ones, whether it's a family member or a friend that we've maybe lost through this pandemic. There's also people that we haven't been able to see during this pandemic. Some maybe we see on Zoom, some not. Some of us, maybe it's just a text, maybe it's not at all. And that is also a grief, feeling separated from somebody, whether it is through space or time or a passing. That can all be grief. Another thing some people might be experiencing is survivor's guilt. A lot of you are probably familiar with this phrase. What survivor's guilt is it can basically be encapsulated in, why was it them and not me? Why am I still here? This is very normal. If you know anybody who has been deployed, they may have expressed some of these thoughts. And so it is totally normal during a time like this pandemic, where we have lost people, to ask ourselves, why am I still here? Why not this other person? If you're feeling like this is starting to get overwhelming, you want to talk to somebody about this, I do have resources at the end for ways to connect you with a therapist. If you have any questions about that, we can, of course, address those when we get towards that slide. On the whole, even when we get back to these events, the life that we all knew is gone. People keep talking about, returning to normal, going back to normal. There isn't going to be that normal. Even if we all, put on our business suits and our ties, or our nice dress tops and our nice heeled shoes, we drive to the office, we sit there in our cubicle, nothing can change the year that we've had. And so after that year, it's never going to actually be the same, even if a lot of things do feel that way. And so with that, people can expect to feel some melancholy or some sadness, even depression. There's been a huge increase in depression through this pandemic, obviously, because so much has been put on hold. It's like we're living in this unending present. And so as excited as we are to return to what we identify as our normal lives, in a way, it's all going to look the same, but we're not. If anybody has ever traveled away, say from their hometown for whatever reason, maybe you went to college or you moved to a new city or you went abroad, whatever, and then you come back, it's this weird dissonance. If you look around and it seems like nothing has changed. All the stores are there. Everything looks the same. Maybe the people you left haven't changed a bit. We're still wearing the same t-shirts, but you know that you have changed just by stint of having been out of that area for however long. And so that produces a sadness, and that can produce a depression. Like, you almost want like one or two things to be different, like maybe a new store opened or somebody got a new haircut. You want a few things to be different, but not a lot, because then you feel like you've missed out on something. And so whenever I think about this, and I think about when we go to our first event, it's all going to look just like we remember it. Maybe there will be masks, maybe not, but it's all going to be just like we remember. But we are so changed. And that always makes me think of this line from the Lord of the Rings movies, where at the end of Return of the King, Frodo is asking himself this very question. How do you return to a life you had after you've been so changed? And he says, when in your heart you begin to understand, there is no going back. And that is sad. And I don't want to put in platitudes about, oh, look towards the future. The future is wonderful. Because we don't know. We don't know what the future is going to look like. And also, it's okay to be sad. It's okay to go to that event, put on your garb, put on your belt, pop out your camp chair, and maybe just look around and just feel a little sad. That's okay. Especially if you're going to be looking for somebody who's not there. This is all okay. And you cope with this in whatever way is best for you. Whether it's saying, I'm going down to the archery range, I'm shooting 100 arrows, or I'm going to go hug everybody I see, or not. Cope with it in the way that you need to. The other thing people are going to feel is anxiety, if you aren't already. A lot of anxiety has been going on this year, of course. And so one of the top questions I've heard people ask is, how do I navigate being around people again? I mean, I can't remember the last time I just saw somebody out and about and, oh, hey, how are you? How's the dog? How's the kids? All of that stuff. You know, I was joking with a family member saying, like, I'm going to like walk up to people, want to hug them, and I'm going to stop and be like, what do I do at this juncture? Do I hug you? Do I lick you? I can't quite remember. And for a lot of us, given that we've spent over a year, wear masks, 6 feet apart, sanitize everything, wash your hands, it's gonna feel a little weird when you get to that point where you're gonna be standing right next to somebody. And you may not be comfortable with that. You may not want to stand that close to somebody. How do you navigate that? What if that person, like me, is a hugger and wants to run up and give you a big, ginormous hug, and you're going, no touchies. I'm not comfortable with this. If anybody wants suggestions on how to navigate that kind of situation, just let me know. We can totally talk about that. We can totally hash that one out. But this is something to be expected. It's gonna be weird when you're surrounded by a bunch of people all of a sudden. It's gonna be anxiety producing. You may notice some butterflies in your stomach, or your hands shaking, or maybe it feels tight in your chest or your shoulders, wherever you hold in your anxiety. This is all normal. It's gonna suck a little bit. Anxiety is not fun. But again, like with the depression and the melancholy, navigate it how you best need to navigate this. Some people, we may not know what we want. Do I want to go back to events? Well, yes, but also no. In what capacity do I want to be engaged with the SCA? Do I still want to go to events at all? Do I still want to be in the SCA? Do I want to go to events? Do I want to scale back? Do I just want to see, my local people in my local group? I don't know what I want, and that is also okay. You can take your time. You can ease into this. You don't have to jump off the deep end. You can start in the shallow end and work your way in, especially when the water hits your tummy and it gets really cold. It's okay. Take all the time you need, work with your anxiety, figure out where you need to be, especially for a lot of us are going, how many people are going to be at this event? When we've gone from being in a little bubble of like no more than 10 people to, oh yeah, there's going to be like 150 people. Not everyone's going to want to do that. Not everybody's going to feel comfortable with that. And it's going to kind of feel like this picture over here where everybody is toe to toe. You've got people, cramming you into the subway. I get a little claustrophobic just looking at this picture, and I don't usually have troubles with claustrophobia. There it is. I'll pause a moment, see if anybody has any questions. Okay, we'll move on then. As I said earlier, do I want to return? What if you say, I don't think I want to? Maybe before the pandemic, you were, maybe you were feeling like, you were a little too busy, running ragged, trying to attend to all of your SEA responsibilities. Maybe the events you were noticing just kind of weren't what they used to be for you. And so, you know what, maybe this is a good time to scale back. Maybe you were just going through the motions of your SEA calendar year. Well, I always do this event. I always do this event. I'm wanted to do X at this event. Prepare for this. Maybe now the time is to scale back. And that's okay. At the same time, if you're wondering if the reason you feel like you don't want to go back is maybe that anxiety or that depression, just be curious with yourself. Ask yourself why, with no expectations, no pressure. Just sit with yourself a moment and go, okay, why am I feeling this way? If you're not sure, am I feeling a little anxious? Am I just feeling a little depressed? Am I going, look, it's just never going to really be the same. It's not going to be the SCA I remember. Those are all fine. If any of you have done therapy at all, or, maybe knocked around the internet, you've probably heard this word mindfulness. It's a bit of a cliche term now. All mindfulness is paying attention in the moment, being almost not hyper aware, but being very aware of yourself in that moment. And you do it with curiosity. So sometimes what I'll tell my clients to do is, if they're like, I think I'm feeling some kind of way. I think maybe I'm feeling anxious, but I don't know why. I'll lead them through a mindfulness exercise where the way one client described it was she felt like she almost kind of unhinged her brain and just kind of let it float around. So she'd go, okay, what am I feeling anxious about? Is it about that project at work? No, I don't think it's that. Is it this? No. Is it this? And then she'll feel that reaction inside, a tiny little extra flare of the anxiety. And she goes, oh, that's it. That's what I'm feeling anxious about. And sometimes we're surprised. Sometimes it's like, really? I'm anxious about this when I got this much bigger thing over here that I feel totally fine with? Brains are wild. Brains are weird. And so maybe if you're not entirely sure if you want to return to the SCA in whatever capacity, just be curious. Sit here with yourself for a little bit. Maybe do it in the shower, or when you take a bath, or when you're lying in bed, whatever. And just explore with yourself maybe what you've got going on. Because once you can identify that, then you can work through it and decide, okay, what do I want to do about it? Maybe I don't return. Maybe I do on a limited basis. Whatever. Nobody's going to judge you. And if they do, send them to me, because I'm going to give them a piece of my mind. Another thing to consider in do I want to return is, do I still have the stamina for this? Some people, they don't go to any events. Some once a quarter, some once a month, some many a month. And I've got to tell you, it's been over a year. I do not have the stamina to be in a car for like 4 to 6 hours. I know I don't. I know I'm going to be in that car and I'm going to be looking like this. We better hope I'm not behind the wheel, because this is going to be me until I get used to those longer car rides again. And so now I'm going to open up, see if anybody has any questions, any thoughts. I'm just going to open up the floor for anybody who maybe wants some resources. What I have here, I have NAMI, That's a national organization. It can give you lots of resources. Zen Care, that's a place that a lot of therapists are listed on, especially in Illinois, especially the Chicago area. You can find great therapists there. Open Path Collective is one of my favorites for anybody who either doesn't have insurance or has, really, poor insurance. Every therapist on there works on a sliding fee scale. I believe it's $30 to $60. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that's what it is. It's a great resource if your insurance is poor or you don't have insurance, but you still want to talk to a therapist. Psychology Today, we are like all on Psychology Today. You can find just about every therapist listed there. Therapy Den, also one of my favorites. Therapy Den has some interesting filters to help you narrow down what you're looking for that I find really helpful. So there's that. I'm just gonna open up the floor. Let's hear from you. How are you guys doing? How are you guys feeling? Just tell me about your week. I want to hear from you.
I just wanted to say that this has been really fascinating, and I really appreciate hearing some of these words. That's it.
Oh, thank you. And then was it Caitlin? Is that what I saw?
Catalan?
Oh, I'm sorry, Catalin. Let's hear it. And then I've got another question here. So let's hear it. Go ahead.
How do we, I know personally, and you know me personally, so you know the losses that I've experienced. But there are so many people in the SCA that we see them, at events, but we don't know them personally or what's really going on in their lives. So how can we be supportive to the populace at large when we first start going to these events, not knowing what may be their triggers or their buttons?
That's actually a really, really good question. And thank you for saying, we don't know what any given person has been experiencing in the past year. So a way you might want to go about that is, oh, hi, it's so good to see you. I'm so glad you're here. How has your year been? And they're gonna be like, oh, well, no, seriously, how are you doing? Is there anything that I can do? Is there anything you just don't want to talk about right now? We tend to feel really awkward. We feel like there's things that, are taboo to say. And the truth of the matter is people are generally grateful and prefer when you just call it out. Like there's this myth, for example, like don't talk about suicide to somebody who's depressed because you'll give them the idea. No, we all know what suicide is. Even small children, unfortunately, have an idea of ceasing to live. And so if you're worried about somebody being suicidal, just say it. Similarly, if you know somebody has lost a loved one, how are you doing with your loss or with your grief or since so-and-so passed? Don't beat around the bush. And you can say, if you don't want to talk about it, you don't want to talk about it. But letting them know that you know, or letting them know that you want to know, is how I would go about that. Right, and I have another question here that says, what do you do when you are anxious, when people want to hug or shake hands? Another great question, because not everybody's a hugger. Not everybody likes to shake hands, especially now. So first off, if you're a hugger like me, always ask. Consent is just good in general, now and forever. One of my teammates is not really a hugger sometimes, but not always. So I ask, would you like a hug? Can I have a hug? And if she doesn't, she'll go no, and I'll go, okay. So a thing for you to do when people want to, hopefully they'll ask. If not, and they're just walking at you with their arms open or their hands, or they're like their hand out, you can just take a step back and just go, no, thank you. I appreciate it. And just leave it there. You don't need to give an outpouring of excuses. And if there's somebody who's like, oh, well, why not? You don't want to hug me, and they're giving you a hard time. I don't want to. You don't need to give a justification. You don't need to give a reason. It's basically, well, because I said no. I'm not comfortable with it. hopefully, SCA is mostly good people. So I think most people will hopefully be respectful. If I had my druthers, that would maybe be something on the event page, or maybe something that people remind others at Troll. Like, we're all really excited. Just make sure you ask first. But if not, there's nothing wrong with just going, I'm so happy to see you, but no, thank you.
For people who are huggers, especially people who have the pointy hats, saying, can I have a hug? Maybe adding more stress to the person who's being asked. Would you like a hug?
Oh, yes.
Avoids that entirely.
Yes. Ooh, I like that. Yes. Putting the ownership and the decision of the interaction in the hands of the receiver. Would you like a hug? As opposed to, can I hug you? Because sometimes people are like, well, okay. Especially as you said with the pointy hats. May I? Would you like? And some people, and I will add this in, because not everybody's comfortable with saying no. I find I almost always add in with anything. No's a perfectly acceptable answer. Hey, would you like defense? No's a perfectly acceptable answer. Would you like a hug? No's a perfectly acceptable answer. And I find I get a better response that way. I get no a little more often than I did. I'm like, okay, cool. Because it communicates, I understand this is an option, and if you say it, I'm going to respect it. So that was great. Thank you. It says, I've been thinking a lot about the SCA that I want. Like, it's less about going back to what we had and more about creating something better. I think that is great. I'd like to open up to a few people. You can either put it in the chat or you can just unmute your mics. What is the better that you guys want to see?
I really like this idea of asking people if they would like a hug for starters, because before times, the SCA was a very tactile society. And so I think, making this change would be very positive for a lot of people.
Yeah. Because we're supposed to be a polite society. Let's keep doing that. Even though we are, in a lot of ways, also a very informal society. But let's maybe move that a little more towards the formal in terms of always asking before we have an interaction. What else? We have a more consensual SCA would be a great start. Yes, I agree. Do you guys think, does there maybe need to be just more education within the society about how different people respond? Maybe a little more education on our neurodivergent members, and maybe just a little more knowledge of, okay, look, this is what it's like to be this type of neurodivergent. You think that would help people? Or is it people like, look, this is my personal thing. I don't need the world to know about it. What do you guys think?
I think that we've all gone through, the entire world has gone through a post-traumatic stress disorder creating event. We're all going to be vastly changed, even if we don't realize how much we have been until we go into a situation. And so I think that any kind of learning that we could do, not only for ourselves, but in how to best be there for other people. I've developed triggers that I never had before. I have them now. So I think any kind of learning that you and others could provide to us would be amazing.
Yeah, and you brought up a good point. This whole pandemic is trauma. Everybody has been traumatized. Towards the beginning, I got a lot of calls from people going, what is this I'm thinking, feeling, behaving? The only people I knew who knew what was happening were the people who have had trauma before. particularly PTSD, and they're like, oh, hello, triggers. So nice to see you. Welcome back. They, unfortunately, were the ones who knew exactly what this was. I have two things in the comments. One's a very good point in terms of talking about neurodivergence, and said yes, but without contrasting neurodivergent and quote normal, which that's something I had just considered, and I think that is absolutely correct. Because let's be honest, nobody's normal. I see a lot of different people in my practice. There's no normal. There is not. And then somebody just asked if I could define neurodivergent. So if anybody else wants to toss in their own definition, go ahead. The way, at least clinically, so as a therapist, the way we talk about neurodivergent is brains that are off of what we call a baseline. And the baseline is just, if we took 100 brains, the majority of them would look this way. And so then things that are outside of that are called neurodivergent. People can be born neurodivergent. We can go in and out. So like say depression. If you want to go to Google and type in, depressed brain image and go to the Google images, you will find comparisons of what I will call a happy, everyday, going on with normal life functioning brain next to a brain of somebody who's experiencing depression, and they look different. So that depressed brain is in a state of neurodivergence, because that's not what we consider our optimal going on with life. Other neurodivergence, ADHD, that's also a really interesting brain scan. If you look up and you see the different parts of the brain that are really active, and you're just like, wow, this makes so much sense. I get this now. The autism spectrum, neurodivergent. Again, people who are experiencing anxiety or are born with a brain that is just more primed for anxiety, that's a neurodivergence. And again, there's no normal. The brain is the most sophisticated computer that we know of in the entire universe. It is to be totally expected that it's gonna go funky. It just is. If any of you know, it was one of those big like Hadron Collider type machines. And I think like a mouse like chewed on like one single wire and the entire thing shut down. One little mouse and one little wire and the entire thing was foobarred. So to me, it is totally expected that our brains are gonna go funky just through the course of our life, just like a car. You get a brand spanking new car and it's running great. And then over time, maybe the wheels get a little on a line and it starts to go this way. Or computers. You get a new computer and it is running and it is fast and everything loads amazing. The longer you have that computer, it still runs, but it's not exactly as Johnny on the spot as it used to be. Maybe, it takes 30 seconds for a program to load when it used to be like 5. Or maybe sometimes you ever seen your computer just trips over its own feet and you just got the little loading thing forever. And then like you're like, come on, click, click, click. And the computer's like, I don't know what I want. My hamster fell out of the wheel. Our brains are the same way. One of the best, you can find this on Reddit, one of the best descriptions of the human brain that I have ever read was somebody who had said that the human brain is like a bowl of tapioca pudding that hallucinated so vividly that it invented calculus. Given this, the idea that the same brain would then go, oh my gosh, you guys, I'm totally being haunted by the ghost of the neighbor's cat who hasn't actually died yet, is just as expected as anything else. And I love this because it totally encapsulates just how weird the human brain is and all of the little ways it can just go a little sideways. Okay, it says, what type of coping mechanisms would be useful in a large event if you feel overwhelmed. This is great. Some of the coping mechanisms that I recommend for people is if you're feeling like, you know what, there's a lot of people, I just need to step back, I just need it quiet, you can just walk away. Go to your car, find a quiet corner. If you feel comfortable, tell the people you with, I'm going to go have a quiet moment, or I like to say I'm going to go introvert, because at heart I am an introvert. I will, when I'm with my people, yeah, and then eventually I'm like, oh God, nobody talk to me. I just got to go be quiet. And so I will tell the people I'm with, I'm going to go introvert, because otherwise, if they look around and go, where's Gwen? And then they see me like sitting in my car in a corner. Oh my gosh, Gwen, what is wrong? Are you okay? And I'm like, yes, I'm okay. Don't talk to me. I'm trying to introvert. So just step away, go for a walk. One of my favorites that a lot of my clients like is it's a deep breathing exercise. I know deep breathing is cliche. It does work. There's a science to it. The short version is if you take slow, deep breaths, your brain is going, oh, there can't possibly be any danger. Because if there was danger, I couldn't take slow, deep breaths. Like I heard described, like you're running from a tiger. Nobody is taking deep, relaxing breaths when they're running from a tiger. So if you take slow, relaxing breaths, your brain goes, oh, no tiger, we're good. So very quickly, what I like, this is one that I like, I teach all my clients, is you close your eyes. If you feel comfortable closing your eyes, you don't have to, you can stare off in the distance. Imagine that you're filled with a colored liquid. Does not matter the color. It can be lavender or puce, don't care. Take a deep breath in, and with every exhale, you imagine the level of that liquid dropping a little bit. Now, when I do this, for whatever reason, every time I inhale, it goes up a little bit, and then I exhale and it goes down a little more. And what people tend to find is wherever it is that they hold their anxiety, their attention, their feelings of being overwhelmed, let's say maybe it's the chest, that the liquid will stall for a little bit. Keep going until you squeeze that liquid right out your toes. The benefit of this is it gets you to take those slow, deep breaths, but it gives you something to think about while you're doing it. Because I am awful at meditation. If I do that clear your mind thing, I start going, oh, I need to do the laundry shit. So that's why I like this one. And that's why a lot of my clients like this one. And on the whole, at events, nobody's going to really ask if you're kind of laying back in your camp chair and you've got your eyes closed, because everyone's going to, oh, taking a quick snooze, whatever. Heck, if you want to sit on the ground and get into that lotus pose with the fingers, go ahead. Everybody recognizes that pose. Nobody's going to say anything. They hopefully won't interrupt you. If they do, just say, I'm doing a calming exercise. People should go, okay, off they go. Another tool for people, if they have a moment where they're mildly triggered, a lot of people or a lot of my clients, like a particular image will come to mind. Maybe it was the triggering moment, maybe not, whatever. And I suggest to them, if you just need to do like a quick and dirty to kind of like, okay, I got to get control over this. Again, this is for things that are mild triggering or mildly upsetting. Is that you have whatever images in your mind and you picture a stop sign. Stop. A lot of times that image will start to like bleed forward again. Stop. Stop. Stop sign. However many times you have to do it. One of my clients told me that she would do the stop sign a few times, and then she would imagine lighting the corners of the image on fire, and the whole thing would crinkle up like a photograph and then be ash. And then she could let it go. Of course, I asked her, why don't you just start with that? And she goes, oh, it doesn't work if I start with that. I have to do the stop sign a few times. Well, okay. If it works, I don't care. Does anybody here, do you guys have coping tools that are useful for you if you're feeling overwhelmed or anxious or you're having a trigger moment? Come right out and say it if you want to. Type it in the chat and I can read it for you, whatever you feel like. One person here says, I like the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method. I also like that one. So I'm going to explain how I know it. A person who posted If you do it differently, please just let me know. And it's utilizing your 5 senses. The way I was taught is that it doesn't matter which senses you choose. It doesn't matter what order, but you start with, let's say, 5 things I can see. I'm going to look around, 5 things I can see. Computer monitor, desk lamp, water glass, speaker, thing full of pens. Okay. Then maybe 4 things I can hear. And then maybe 3 things I can touch. Then maybe 2 things I can smell. And then maybe 1 thing I can taste. I tend to do 1 thing I can taste. That's just me, because otherwise I'm off licking people. And that's, generally frowned upon, unless you ask permission. But the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is your 5 senses. And it doesn't matter what order, pick which one you like. And after that, if you don't feel like you're centered, do it again. 5 new things I can smell. 4 new things I can see, whatever. For people who do have a trauma history and notice they may have some problems with feeling overwhelmed, or you feel like maybe you're starting to dissociate a little bit, you're starting to maybe disconnect a little bit from where you are. A full-blown version of this is a flashback, if people aren't sure what I'm talking about. People don't always do a full-blown flashback. Sometimes they just maybe feel like, I almost feel like I'm kind of not quite a little bit out of my body, or almost like I'm a little out of focus. Having things to smell, because our sense of smell is our most evocative sense, particularly citrus. So if you're at an event, go to the fighter table, grab an orange slice, hold that under your nose, and take a few smells. I have some of my trauma clients, they just keep a whole orange in their freezer. And if they need to, they'll go get it. Some people will get like the little spritz scents, it's not lavender, maybe it's lime or orange or whatever works for you. Don't make it like Pine Sol or something. Please don't like huff Pine Sol, please. Not helping. But if you feel like, hey, I'm feeling a little off kilter, a little out of center, you can walk over to the fighter table, grab that orange slice. I don't think too many people are going to ask if they see you going, does oranges smell nice? And if anybody asks, you just go, well, it smells nice. I like the smell of orange. You can also just go mind your own beeswax. That's also fine, as far as I'm concerned. Any other questions, thoughts? Oh, we have somebody who says, I like to eat the orange and smell the peel. That also works. And we have, there is a thing I do for calming that is based on the Chinese meridian theory. I'm not familiar with this one, so I'm eager to read more. It's stilling the, quote, triple burner meridian. Using a finger, start at your temple, stroke around the back of the ear, or both, down the side of the neck, down the back of your arm, and out to your middle finger. I can turn on video and show if you want. Would people like to see that? Because I would like to see that. All right, please do so.
Let's see if I can. I might have to take my hood off so you can see it
Okay.
better, but I think I can do it with it on. But it's like right here,
Okay.
kind of just above your ear, but at the temple.
Okay, yeah.
And it's around the back of the ear, not quite touching the earlobe.
Oh, okay.
Coming down, not exactly on the side of your neck, but a little bit to the back of it.
Okay.
Kind of down behind that muscle there.
Yeah, okay.
And then it comes out, it's sort of around the backish of the shoulder.
Okay.
Back here.
Yeah.
And then down back of the arm. And kind of the side of the arm.
Okay.
Sort of aiming out towards your middle finger.
And the middle finger.
That's really
this-
effective if you do both sides at once. So I find I have to switch hands to do the arms.
Okay, yeah. Well, that is fabulous.
Learned
stealing
that
this.
from a martial arts instructor one time, and it really works for me.
Fabulous. Keep using it then. I'm stealing this. This is great. I also have a comment here that says Dame Tacit notes that smelling oranges is a historical practice for calming in Renaissance Europe. Perfect. We're in period as well. Double bonus. So that's a wonderful factoid. Thank you for also sharing our meridian, our triple burner meridian. That's wonderful. That's what I was going to say. I just lost my train of thought. I'll open up again. Anybody else? Questions, comments, thoughts, techniques that work for you? I think one of the things I'm looking forward to is really enacting this idea that the SCA is a polite society. As much as we are all very tactile, and a lot of us are really huggy and touchy, getting to where it becomes very normal to say, would you like a hug? I'm also looking forward to people being more pronoun conscious. And, leading by example. Hi, I'm Gwen. My pronouns are she, her. And then if the other person wants to give me their pronouns, they can. But it communicates that I guess I'll say in the know. And it communicates, whatever your pronouns are, tell me and I'll use them. My dream is for that just to be the normal practice. That's just how we all introduce ourselves. Is anybody concerned about remembering who the heck all these people are after a year? And said, would it be helpful to have some group ceremonies to acknowledge our losses? I think absolutely. I want to see that. If not only like the first few events, I want to see that continue. I really much want to have that moment to acknowledge the people we have lost in and out of the society, family members we've lost, friends, as well as society members. Because of course, we're not going to forget these people. We never are. The pain is always there. Over time, wounds heal. They leave a scar. So while over time, the pain may feel less intense, the pain of loss, it's still there. We're not going to forget those people. And I want the society to be able to acknowledge and acknowledge the grief and remember the people that we've lost in and out of the society. And just, it's like, we remember them and we're here for you. And then I had asked if anybody has any particular way that they would like to see that done at events.
Well, I always like seeing a toast at feasts for to those who cannot be with us or
I like that.
friends.
Yeah. I was also thinking perhaps at court. Open up the court. Here opens the court of fairness. Hillary and Gareth, they're amazing. We all love them. Let's have a moment to remember those who aren't here.
Something that comes to mind for me is maybe something like a small tent or pavilion kind of set aside, not right in the thick of things, maybe in a quieter area where we could either have pictures of people or people could just make notes of those they've lost, or somebody quietly acknowledge it, but also be in a place where everybody can share in it.
I like that idea.
I was thinking about something similar, but I know people like to often leave a small memorial item, or whether it's flowers or whatever. But then the question, as somebody who's running the event, is what do you do with all of the stuff, because you have to clean it up? So okay, let's turn that a little bit and specify, and maybe depending on who we're talking about, work with someone who knew them. What is a charity that this person liked? And maybe say, maybe it's for the whole group, maybe it's for an individual, basically say, yes, we understand you would like to leave something. Here is their charity.
That's a great idea. Ooh, I like that.
you know, and then so people can do the, you know, I feel a need to have, you know, to contribute some sort of specific memorial thing.
Yeah.
And here is their charity, you know, here are the business cards for their charity. You can take a business card when you go.
I think that's fabulous. I never would have thought of that. That's a fabulous idea.
What is it that they do at Penzic for the people that they've lost in the previous year?
Oh, it's the shield. You can do like a little shield. That's not how a shield is shaped. You can just, you know, you can paint it with their device, whatever you want on it, words. And then they do like a little Viking burial that they'll push a little boat out onto the lake. And I believe they set it on fire. I've never actually gone, but I believe then they set it on fire, and then your shield with your thoughts and whatever then burns with it. And then, you know, of course it's sent up through the flames and the smoke.
So that might be another option, especially for, you know, places where it's safe to burn things, you know,
Yes.
have the fire pit and whatnot,
Yeah.
is, you know, create the small boat out of paper, wood, you know, popsicle sticks, whatever,
Yeah.
and do the similar thing, and then, you know, have the ritual burning.
Yeah. I like that idea too.
You
Yeah.
know, water not necessary.
Yeah, water's not, I mean, have some water just in case, but you don't have
Yes.
to put it on the
Well, yeah,
fire.
you know, the fire suppression water. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Sophia, for helping keep everything running smoothly. Thank you, everybody, so much for coming. If you ever want to reach out to me, you have questions, need some guidance, whatever, you can either find me on Facebook. I'm there as Gwynneth. You can contact Gareth and Hillary. They know how to get me. If you know the Thieves of Hearts, they all know how to find me. So any of that, I'll be happy to talk to you. Thank you again, everybody. Go off and enjoy the rest of your day.